Sometimes I just do dumb things that don't make sense, but in my brain they make sense, but I don't know, it doesn't always check. Right now over on my Patreon, we're doing a buddy read for the book Assassin's Quest, which if you haven't seen my video reviews for those books, which I will link up above and down below, the Assassins series by Robin Hobb has been an awesome revelation for me this year, with Royal Assassin definitely being with maybe my top 5 books of the year, if not I don't know, it's really hard because I love the Stormlight Archive. Nevertheless, I love this series so much. I've become so attached to the characters and Hobb's writing style. It has just been a huge win for me overall. The problem is that, okay, so there's a little bit of other stuff as well. Assassin's Quest is a lot longer than the other 2 books. It's also more of a travel fantasy, so it's not quite as tight as the other books. Nevertheless, I kind of like travel fantasies and I'm okay with massive books. So, that could be factoring in, but I don't think it's the main factor. With Assassin's Quest, I've been reading it slower and having a harder time getting through it, and I think the number one reason is every single person I know that's finished Assassin's Quest, finished this trilogy, has talked about just how soul-crushingly sad and depressing it is. And listen, I'm pretty sure that in both of the video reviews for the first 2 books, I talked about how these books were sad, but they were awesome, and I was so emotionally attached to the characters that I needed to find out what was going to happen, even though I knew it was going to be brutal. Royal Assassin was much more brutal than I had initially expected even. But I know so many people that just talk about how Assassin's Quest still has scarred them to this day, and I'm having a hard time getting to the end of this book because I'm afraid. I'm afraid for what can go wrong. There are so many potential options for things to go wrong. Characters to get killed, characters to die, characters to betray each other. Everything about the end of this series, knowing this nebulous sadness is going to happen, and then as we go through the story and I'm continuing to fall in love with these characters, I'm continuing to get invested into the story and the world and the politics, I'm so afraid, and I have to admit that it is making it harder for me to get through this book. I don't want to see it all fall apart, and that's what I kind of think is going to happen. Have you ever been reading a book where you are so dreading the ending that you're afraid to get there? Additionally, I have this weird habit with a TV show, or sometimes with a book series, if the book has a finale, I will put off the finale because I don't want the thing to have ended in my headcanon. The very first time I was reading through the Narnia books, I had a very hard time reading The Last Battle because I did not want my experience with the series to be over. When I was watching the television show Psych, I refused to watch the last season because in my brain, I didn't want for everything to be over. I don't like for things that I love and worlds that I love living in and characters that I love being with, I don't like that to end, so I have been known to just put off the ending of things. That way I don't have to close the book, so to speak, in my own brain. Does anyone else do that? Another weird thing that I talk about doing that I think is kind of weird is sometimes when I find out about something being amazing and awesome, and I find out that I would probably love it, instead of jumping on it, I put it off and save it for a rainy day. I've done this with video games, I've done this with movies, I do this with books sometimes where I see a book, I hear about it and I go, oh, that sounds kind of awesome and amazing, but instead of reading it now, I'm going to put it on my TBR and just save it for when I need that specific feeling that I think it's going to give me. Is this a logical thing that people do? I don't think it is, but for me, it comes second nature, and I can sometimes do it for a very long time, where I will intentionally put off something that I know I'm going to love because I know that I might need it more later, and what that really results in is usually me never getting to it. But I hope I'm not alone there. Am I crazy? Is this some kind of twisted form of extreme delayed gratification? I don't know. As someone that has watched movies and TV shows and loves listening to music and playing video games, books have this thing where they just hit different. Like a TV show, but extrapolated, you're able to get a lot more character development over a lot more time in a lot of instances. Additionally, you're able to see the thoughts of so many different characters in a way where everything has to be implied on a screen. And in a video game, sometimes the gameplay fights with the idea of telling a narrative. Sometimes it really works to complement it. But in books, everything can be driven towards crafting a super intricate plot or or super developed characters, or a combination of all of those things in a way that other mediums, they just do it differently. Everybody reads things differently, and I just realized like this year / last year that there are people who don't have the ability, or don't at least commonly imagine like pictures or movies in their head. And so for me, I have a hard time like understanding that concept, because in my brain, when I'm spending time reading a book, especially a big fantasy book, especially like these big chonkers that spend so much time in world building and character development and intricate plots, especially like a Brandon Sanderson, Sanderlanche style like ending, I get so wrapped into the scene and the characters, and I feel like I know these people, I can know what they're going to do. I feel their pain when they experience pain. Like, these are things that a lot of readers can relate to, I'm sure. I'm not alone there. That's not the crazy thing. But when you have a story that just hits so hard that it sticks with you for a very long time, and you remember these quotes, you remember these situations that people were put into, and you can feel the emotions of everyone involved, it's so powerful. And I'm sure that there are probably some people that just like are less emotional when they read things, but I tend to get like emotional when I read things all the time. I don't mean just like I cry all the time, though sometimes I do. It's just like every time I'm listening to a story, reading a story, watching a story, I get super into, I realize that it is going to significantly affect things in my life, like the way that I think about things, the way that I understand other people, the way that I hurt when I see some of these things cropping up again in real life or in other stories. Like, the things that we're reading about can be so impactful in so many ways that sometimes I'm just scared when I know that something heavy is going to happen, or something major is going to happen in a story to disrupt the entire world, to paradigm shift everything that I understand about these characters that I know and love. This plot, like, I get comfortable in a city or a situation or a kingdom. I get invested in a romance, like all these things. I know it's just sometimes gonna crumble, and sometimes it's gonna be beautiful. I can appreciate things that aren't sad, though lately I'm just in this Assassin's Quest mindset that sometimes I just have to brace myself for the craziness of what's to come, knowing it may hurt me and be a hurt that I feel for years to come. It may also be a joy that I experience, and I go, I wish everyone could experience this, or I want to push this thing on everybody else because I love it so much. Knowing that in a lot of ways stories are really personal, and that doesn't always make sense. I guess I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but I'm curious if anyone else can relate to anything that I've said. Basically, I had some extra time. I sat down in front of a camera and wanted to spill some of my thoughts, and mainly talk about my, address my trepidation to get to the end of Assassin's Quest. Robin Hobb, Megan Lindholm, you did this to me. You're the reason for this video in a lot of ways. If you feel me and want to see more videos from me, please hit the subscribe button. You can also like this video if you liked it. Please comment down below with the last book that really just rocked your world in some major way. Feel free to share as many or as little of the details as you want to as possible, because I love to see the ways that stories impact people. If you would rather talk about this in a more conversational way, there's a link to my Discord down below which everyone can join. I hope you all are having a good week. I can't wait to see you again. Bye.
Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If it don't show up, I might get fired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired.